Happy full moon in Aries. Just blessings, love, light, happiness, and joy to you all during this, wonderful time of self-actualization and joy and just surprise light. You knew what sign this was before I did, but yes, we're getting to the goods. My Taurus girlies, yes. This is so beautiful because I had a really special initiation happen to me this morning under the full moon, right as it was peaking in my area, and I knew that it was, I felt very called to say to Taurus that, there are things that I think Taurus was looking ahead, inevitables, let's just say, that I believe Taurus was looking ahead at, and there was so much fear about having to face, the truth of our lives. And this is just the case for me, even this morning. And I think when the day finally came where the inevitable had to happen, like, I just was overwhelmed by my growth superseded like what I could have conceived it being. And the person I am today met that same daunting, scary day. And it was like, not only was it a piece of cake, it was like a celebration. So I feel like, Taurus, that might be the MO for you at this full moon, which is like, there may have been things that you had feared for just the longest amount of time, I tell you what, and for real reasons, right? Like, not easy, heavy things that you have to address, endings or truths that need to surface that would really lead to your liberation, but they're not easy. They're rather heavy. And I feel like something about, when we look out ahead of ourselves, especially if we know these are things we're gonna have to deal with at a later date, right? I think the thing that a lot of us can't account for with this beautiful human life is like how fucking far and fast. Did you see that beautiful fuzz that just went by? But how far and fast we grow. Like, I think that's the thing, is you might know something has to be done or has to be said, but do not underestimate how far you've changed and evolved, and just how big of a role that will play in like the facing of the thing, because it might surprise you how not just smooth but how beautiful and whole the experience of facing even our worst fears can really feel. So I just felt like the need to share that for the Taurus Collective, because I was just excited and delighted to have this reading happen next, because that was the truth for me this morning as I awoke under the same moon that we are all under currently. So just want to go ahead and get started. Taurus coming out as their own energy. The Hierophant. It's been so beautiful to connect with this energy during this time. I think that's the best way that I can describe it. I think, it's really difficult when we have to face the hard truths of our life, like when something is just genuinely not on our path anymore. Like, I think those are the hardest relationships to walk away from, the ones where it's like it's nobody's fault, but like we just are not for each other moving forward, same, or the hardest, circumstances or activities, or like it can be really hard when it's time to walk away from a career when you're just being called in a different direction, and it's not about, and I think we can have so much fear, or we can stay stagnated as a fixed energy in certain things for so much longer out of just that pure fear that, like, I know my life is going to take me somewhere else, so I'm just counting the days until this is no longer. And I feel like, this Aries full moon, I feel like Taurus could feel that it was time to honor the truth of their spirit. And I think that can be scary depending on how different the physical life you were living was in conjunction to your like actual spiritual path and destiny. And so that's what I feel. I feel like there was, for me, I know I woke up today with like, there was such a guardedness that I felt like had to be broken down towards accepting this about myself, accepting, my own spiritual truth, accepting where my soul needs me to go as well, not just where, I get it with Taurus, we're the first earth sign, we're such a young zodiac sign, we deal with so much of the physical realm, we're so enriched by Venus that sometimes it can be hard when it's time to make a move or it's time to adjust based on the evolution of our soul. And so when those things come up, we can be really guarded and fearful even of how things are going to turn out for us. It can be the reason we don't initiate things. But I feel like after the things that you come through with this moon, I'm channeling, after you face the things that you come through with this moon, it's going to be the perfect teaching, like medallion you could have received to tell you that, like, in the future, if you're ever in a situation where it's like, I am so freaked out about how this might turn out for me, about how being honest or coming to God or coming to myself about what the truth is in the situation, you will look back on this Aries full moon over this time period, over right now, for the rest of your life, I believe, and remember that, like, you thought it was going to be so bad and your own growth superseded it. Like, your own status as the Hierophant is what helped you finish out this difficult, like, I feel like this Nine of Wands, you'd stagnated here for a long time, Taurus. There were just things that you didn't want to move on because it was like, I don't want to believe that, or I don't want to give into my destiny. I don't want to feel like I don't have the control. And the fact that your growth is at Hierophant level is the thing that made the way that this moon may have initiated you, pushed you to deal with it, to face it. But it's all good because who you are, you couldn't even conceive being. So you're not even addressing problems from the same person that you were. So even the fears belong to some other bitch. It's not even you anymore. You know what I mean? Because you have mastered yourself. You have mastered the realm of your spirit and the adhering to your spirit and being true to your spirit. It's so beautiful, Taurus. Congratulations. Because this moon, I believe, you knew right now that it was going to be time to walk away from the devil. It was going to be time to walk away from the deceptive path. Like, we knew that, like, you know, like, I get it. Like, again, nobody chooses the devil. Like, again, most people don't choose, like, a devil or deceptive path because they actually think it's deceptive. They're learning about themselves, so they don't actually know it's deceptive. And I feel like for our Taurus collective, that's the truth, right? Like, we didn't know somebody, something, the way we were showing up, the lifestyle we were living, the people we were connected to. We didn't initially, obviously, go into them to, like, keep ourselves in bondage. We went to grow and ascend through the things that you can learn through devil energy. But there was always going to come a time, there was always this, like, this expiration date. I'm hearing there's always an expiration date on some of this stuff that you knew you were going to have to go away from. You were going to have to go even past this. You were going to have to push past this. And I feel like, again, with this moon, like, I think Taurus is just going to be so surprised because the thing that comes and alleviates a lot of the painfulness of some of these initiated endings of, like, again, because separating from a devil energy can feel painful, right? We can be scared about how that's going to actually feel for us. But the thing that saved us is, like, what's a devil to a Hierophant? You know what I mean? A spiritual man is the most committed and prepared to deal with the attacks on the spirit, you know? And so I just don't think Taurus was aware or is kind of surprised under this full moon, like, holy shit, I'm a whole different person though. And so, yeah, I remember I may have been fearing 5, 10, 15, 20 years of this change, this impending doom, like this relationship I knew wasn't going to work, this job I knew wasn't going to work, this way of living that I knew wasn't going to work for me, this bad health habit that I knew wasn't going to work for me, these friends that I knew eventually were just not going to work for me because of just, like, again, we're talking about path, we're talking about stuff that, like, is not about the flesh, that isn't about, like, the third dimension stuff that has to do with, like, you have to go through this level of soul evolution and only you would know that. Like, you know the karma that's on your soul, you know the dharma that you're here to create, right? And so it may be different, it may take you down a different path than the stuff that you've been associated with. And again, it's so beautiful that the Chariot opening up at this time is here for you. And that's what I'm saying. I think Taurus could anticipate the eight of Wands. I think Taurus could feel that this fire moon was going to push the shit out of them, right? But that bull was not expecting that they were already walking in the direction of it. I think that's when I woke up surprised, like, oh shit, I thought this was all going to come and attack me and, like, be at me. But actually it's the wind in my sails. So, oh my God, that's what I should title this reading. It's the wind in your sails. Literally. You feared so much a force that was actually going to penetrate you because of your growth and development as a person. It's going to just propel you forward. This truth you had to face, these things that you had to face. And again, I think it has to do with the things that are for you. The things that are for you truly coming in. I think you thought were going to intervene with the mess you were making of your life before you knew this stuff was actually for you. Like, I think you thought, like, shit, like, this is really going to, like, come at me. This is going to really, like, destabilize me. But actually, it just is the thing that's powering your Knight of Pentacles. You know, the part of you that's going to go forward and continue to manifest in a real way exactly what it is you were meant to be as the Taurus you are. And it's funny. I also just feel like, yeah, you know, the bull is like, you know, the bull is very self-aware. It's like, listen, you're not going to get me to move when I'm not ready to move. And I feel like Taurus knows that about itself. And I feel like to have been caught that like this change also goes at your speed. It's adjusted to you. I feel like you see there's just such a personalness with this full moon for me that felt like the divine really did give me my life because it's supposed to feel good and appropriate for me, the person that I really am, not something or someone else. And I feel like that is so surprising because you have all of this behind you, pushing you forward. You know, you have the things that are really for you, supporting you with this change, with this chariot, this portal that you're going in. So beautiful. Oh my gosh. Exactly. This is that past. This is what you knew wouldn't last. You knew because you knew the things that were, you knew the things that you were keeping in your life, the company you were keeping, the jobs, the things you were part of, the friends you were part of, the communities you're part of, the place that you lived. You knew. You weren't your freest. You knew that. You know, you knew that this is gonna have to end. I can only go on for 2 more scores until this is donezo. You get what I'm saying? And that can be hard, you know, like staying in a relationship that you know is like, this is not gonna last. And it's hard for Taurus to deal with non-permanence. We're a fixed sign, so it's very fucking difficult for us to be like dealing with temporary shit. Like I don't think Taurus wants to come. Taurus doesn't like to deal with like a lot of change. Like it doesn't want to. It doesn't choose to. It's really not trying to make friends, partnership that it's gonna leave. And I think that's why you tend to anchor so much because you're looking for. Taurus just has that fucking quality. It has that like I'm a long-term investment ass shorty. I'm someone you investment for the long run. You know, it's not a one-night thrill of Taurus. You're not looking for a Taurus if you want to switch up quick. And I just feel like for Taurus energy, you know, as good as this may have felt, as much as this may have stimulated some sense of, you know, it like you know where you knew when you attracted these things where you were in your cycle. And so if something likes you when you're 2 swords away from being done with a whole identity, you know that it only has 2 more swords with you. It only has so much time with you. Because again, that's how I feel. Like it's like, you know, the friends that the friends that I made in college, I knew that for me and my personal evolution, like the person that I was becoming on the other side of college was a completely different person. So, you know, for the people to be entering my life at the end of a cycle for me, I kind of knew like even if these friends feel great for right now, they really probably are temporary. And that was difficult for my Taurus. But again, I think you'd be surprised how much like facing that temporariness will always only propel you, Taurus. And whenever you choose to walk and volunteer yourself through the portal once it opens up to tell you it's time to go, whenever you volunteer to do that, I think you see like that non-resistance is the most appreciated thing by the divine. The most appreciated thing. Oh man. It's so crazy, Taurus. You are ending a major cycle of building and collaborating with things that are going to shortchange you, things that are going to deaden you, like dead weight, things that are not going to be able to keep going forward with you. You can't take all 5 of the swords. You get what I'm saying? Like, this is like, you know, going into partnership, taking contracts, you know, showing up in careers that have an end date, have an expiration date. You know what I mean? And we can have, again, life is about experiences. There is value in that. I'm not saying that everything has to be, you know, lifetime supply. Some things are in your life for a reason, a season, or, you know, anything in between, right? But I think that when we are dealing as a fixed earth sign with those things that, you know, already can show signs of like temporalness, like this is very temporary. This is not something that I feel like is going to be forever, when Taurus only has the ability to build in forever. Like, even if Taurus is dealing with like a friend that's just supposed to teach him in a cycle, like they're still going to treat them like the friend that should have been in their life for the rest of their life. So like friend divorces, breakups are always hard for Taurus. Like friendship, like endings are hard for Taurus. Moving is hard for Taurus because like you don't know how to speak. There's nothing quick and short and mutable about you. Like it is like the slowest moving earth. Like it's like the earth's surface, like the way that it takes eons for like the water to erode the earth's like surface and create a new form. Like it's not a fast process with you. And so you really don't discriminate. It doesn't matter if you're meeting somebody once in your lifetime. You treat everyone the same. Like you go at the same pace no matter what. So even if a job, like even Tauruses don't good if like, even if you have to like say you have to like, I gotta go pick up a second job to like help supplement my income, right? Like that second job is still not gonna be easy for you to leave, Taurus. It's just the truth. It's just because everything for you, like you only know how to build a foundation. You don't know how to do anything else other than that. You only know how to go build the long way. And so I feel like you knew, because you obviously know not everything that unfortunately we would like to try as best as we can to keep only that which is supposed to be in our life for a whole lifetime. But that's not the reality of things most of the time. And so I think you had a lot of these things on your plate and in your life that you were looking at that you knew this is dated, this belief, this idea, this exploration, this partnership, this curiosity, it can't last forever. It's not going to last forever. And eventually I will have to make terms with the fact that I'm gonna have to figure out a way to let it go. And no longer build with it. And so I feel like Taurus under this moon is actually surprised because you're facing that stuff, the stuff that was temporary. And what you're finding is all the things that are temporary for you, Taurus, because you don't change your frame of mind, because you're always Knight of Pentacles, you're finding that like, oh, wait, but even the temporary stuff that I put in my life will support me. It will support my long-term endeavors, because no experience is wasted. And once Taurus realized that after waking up under this moon, that nothing that they did, like even if a relationship that lasted, a temporary amount of time, like it wasn't your whole lifetime, maybe it was 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, even when that ends, it doesn't mean you lose it, right? Because things that end for us, Taurus, go into our Hierophant bank, meaning they become a part of our spiritual truth. So if you walk away from a relationship that isn't the thing that you were meant to stop on, it doesn't mean that, I think our worst fear about closing out relationships with people would be what, right? Like, well, damn it, I invested so much. And I know Taurus can't help but think about my investment, right? And I know that, but again, the investment doesn't disappear. It just turns into the non-physical. It turns into Hierophant energy. Hierophants have power and ability as well, right? It's just of a different degree. It's just a spiritual bank, right? It's not like a physical bank. So, right, yeah, you may have invested a lot of money into someone or a project or a job or, a community or an initiative, an investment endeavor, whatever, right? You could have put a lot into that. And even if you feel like you lose physical money, physical property, physical possessions, which we know hurts, right, Taurus? We know that can hurt. It doesn't mean that it went nowhere. And I think you're realizing this full moon in Aries brought you to your Hierophant bank, and you're looking in your spiritual bank and you're like, oh shit, there's that experience. There's that old ex. There's that old, all that turned into soul wisdom. Holy shit. So it didn't go away. And I think Taurus is going into this totally new way of feeling about their life. That's like, oh, it didn't go away. Like nothing is lost. Energy can never be destroyed. It can only continue on and take on new form. This is such a beautiful energy, Taurus. You knew it. You knew it. You knew it. You were indecision for so long because you knew, like I said, did I not tell you exactly this? In your recent past, you were at the Eight of Swords. So maybe you were initiating partnerships, connecting with new things when you knew you were at the Eight of Swords. You knew where you were in your soul's growth. So like going out and making new friends when you know you're about to end a cycle, you know you're about to move out of a city, or you know you're about to finish school, or you know you're about to, right? Or going out and dating someone when you know like this, you're not in a permanent place at all in your life, right? And so you know that even if you start that relationship, this is like Taurus being like, I probably shouldn't do this. I probably shouldn't commit to this person, but fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyways. You know what I mean? Because it's gonna be worth living it out with this person either way. Then Taurus, understand this. That's the truth. If that's how you feel, if you feel like this experience was worth it for you to get, just to get, because it's something you want to have the experience and the knowledge of, then nothing is wasted. And no one can judge you, Taurus. No one can judge you for the things that you thought were worth it for you. Yeah, it may not have been my forever person. This person may be very far from where I should have ended, but I went for it and I did that even if I knew my days were numbered. Even if I knew this wasn't going to last forever, I did it because it spits me out as the Page of Swords, because the wisdom, the spiritual truth I got out of going through that experience was invaluable. And it helps me create the world I want moving forward. It helped me. There was so much valuable to you. So I feel like Taurus was in that place. It's like, yeah, I might have dated that person and I knew like, that wasn't really this wasn't about the one. Not every experience is about defining yourself. Sometimes experiences are about experiencing things. And I think Taurus is showing so much beauty and so much grace and so much humility under this moon at this time, because even if this moon does end those things, I think you knew. One, I think you knew too that the whole point you went for some of this stuff wasn't for what other people could tell you. It wasn't because you were a fool being played. Because I think with Taurus is a lot of people think that like, you're so dumb. Why would you go for that? And sometimes people can't see what you get out of going for certain things and engaging in certain experiences. Like maybe you got kids out of your first marriage that needed to be on this planet and you feel that way. And no one else can validate that you felt that way. But that relationship that was hard on you but brought forth like your best gift, maybe that's how you feel. You know what I mean? Or maybe you chose a career path that you knew wasn't super sustainable, or you chose to go about it in a way that isn't super sustainable, but you knew that it was going to give you the fulfillment that it gave you while you were doing it, and that felt worth it to you. I mean, who can stop you? So again, when Taurus is realizing, like, I know, when you're the one fucking knowing I'm 5 of sorting myself, period, shut the fuck up. That's how it feels. You know, I love that for you, Taurus. I really do. It's the truth, you know? I think you knew what your spiritual truth was, but I think sometimes, you know, a lot of Tauruses too, it's a younger zodiac sign, so a lot of times your soul could just be learning. Like, you could be a newer soul here to just learn certain things that you haven't gotten to learn yet, and it's not about you always try. It's not always that because Taurus is doing this, they're trying to dishonor their spiritual truth, and they want to go against, and they want to make things so much harder. That's not ever Taurus's intention. Sometimes you can't see what emotional fulfillment they will get, and the emotional depth and maturity they will receive from having to put themselves through things, you know, and learn. That's all you were trying to do, was learn. And I feel like these relationships, you had such a respect for them. These things you were committed to, you had such a respect for them. And you really appreciate them even committing to you, even if they knew maybe it wasn't forever, you know? You really knew that. Because, yeah, I feel like this moon, it's like it's time for you to move forward to things that can equally give and take. So like I said, I do feel like for a lot of Taurus, there's a lot of different octaves and frequencies that this could be resonating for you at. But most importantly is it's time for Spirit to move you forward to the things that can give you equally. So even if you were in something that obviously could not provide that any further, or maybe never provided that for you, or maybe it's the first time you're starting to have to worry about like what can give to me equally instead of just like what can fill a need or what can give me joy. Because again, Taurus, like we talked about in the last reading, like, you know, you there's so much that you do just for the sensation of life. Like, Taurus is really just trying to gratify their senses, and I think this is just about an emotional depth. Like, Taurus, it's time for you to go, even deeper. It's all coming out, right? It's time for you to go even deeper. It's time for stuff to not only just make you feel good, but also really be for you, to help you build something even stronger than just something that, like I said, can provide you some sort of pleasure. It's so crazy and beautiful under this full moon. It's so crazy and beautiful for you, Taurus. Yeah. And I think the thing that Taurus fears is, like, you know, a lot of your motivations are, I think there was a fear about whether or not Taurus could actually go into partnership. And I think that's why, because I think Taurus is super specific. I think Taurus, amongst most of the zodiac sign, is like a very unique zodiac sign. And I think acceptance and feeling like you're a part of something, feeling like someone or something loves you for who you are and feels like it wants to work with you. I think that's a big irrational fear for Taurus, because we are so one of one. Like, there's not really there's no other fixed earth. So, I mean, it's a hard thing to relate to, you know, in terms of like what Taurus's motivations and goals are. And so, you know, I think a lot of times Taurus will just like take any opportunity and chance it can get to like see how its cup stacks up against somebody else's cup, you know, and without really needing to be honest about like, I'm way past that, or I'm way too independent for this, or this really probably might just end in codependency, or someone like over relying on me, because, you know, because again, you've mastered, like, you have the staying power, you know how to do that, you know how to bring everything to fruition, you know how to manifest beautifully as well, like, you know what I mean, you know how to do all of that stuff. So I think it's so hard sometimes because it kind of feels like that's kind of self-sufficient. It kind of feels like Taurus's energy isn't really meant to include a lot of other people. And so, you know, that can make you worrisome because you feel like, well, am I missing out on like partnership? Like, am I missing out on working with others? And yeah, even if those initiatives, so sometimes again, you just taking an opportunity to work with others at any chance you can because of like a fear, because you fear that you won't have someone there for you. I'm here to tell you, Taurus, yes, you do. You absolutely, it's beautiful. Taurus, this full moon is offering you the contract of a lifetime. And notice how it's only you in this picture. But I think Taurus is realizing that it was worth it to take the time that I got to take. Because I think for most Tauruses, they know their destiny. It's not that you're destined to be alone, but your work, what you're called here to do, what you're called here to contribute, to ground down and bring forward is a pretty solo mission. And I think that you're going to be called to refocus on this under this moon on your like solo mission. And so when you think about the love you've cultivated and how if at this time, like things that have to do with partnership get moved around or are let go of, or the time is up on that, It really just has to do with like, it can't conflict with the sacred work you have to do on your soul, right? The things that you're meant to build, the contracts you're meant to go into for you. And I think for a lot of Tauruses too, Tauruses tend to attract people that are also very different than them. Like I said, just off top, not even because they're trying to go for something super different, but because there's not really any other energy in the zodiac that's like Taurus. So whether this is like love or not love related, or like work affiliated, or just family affiliated, like I think the problem is that like, what you do, like no one does it with you. Like even if you go and you're with somebody, like they do like they're very separate from you in terms of like, you might be, really good at one medium, and the person you date is like in a completely different field. And so I think this is just that time where like for the Tauruses whose sacred work and call and soul destiny do not have to do with like what the partnership they've cultivated like specifically is, this is going to take priority under this moon. And I think you knew that. And I think you knew that, you have this deep-seated passion, these things that you have to bring forward for yourself, that unfortunately, like, that if you're in these connections that don't actually like know how to coincide, like again, it's not even that they don't know how to, not everything is destined to grow with you. I think that's really the point here, Taurus, is that like what we can't gauge with relationships, especially if we're not looking at them spiritually, is like how it'll grow. Like I said, like, when I met my husband, like it was completely the divine that made him my husband, because it was just the fact that his soul continues to grow and it like, because I am such an independent person, like I am someone that's going to have to keep walking the path that I have to walk independently. So really for me to be able to identify a husband in my life, it would just be the person that I know their spiritual truth coincides with mine. And nothing more, nothing less. There could be plenty of people that I thought were attractive or thought were cool or thought were great friends to me, but could never reach that, because that's something that we can't control, right? That you don't really have the vision of like how someone else's life is going to grow. So you just kind of have to both like rely on the divine to trust that you're growing in the same direction. And I feel like you knew that there were certain things, like I think again, Taurus loves to learn from diversity. You just love to sense and taste and feel and experience everything. And so you like to cultivate connections and groups around you that are really different than you. But I think Taurus was getting a little too, in the age of Pisces, into like non-specificity. Like I think because you just like to sense everything, like your friend group might have just been a bunch of people that you like and think are cool and or think are great. But they don't really have anything to do with like building with you. They're just things that you're like learning from diversity. And so those days are kind of numbered with those experiences and those relationships, because eventually you're going to be called in a different direction to them. And so I feel like at this moon, the direction you're being called into that is different than others. And you're being asked to embrace that with love and light. And also remember that nothing is salvaged. Like even if these relationships, this is where they end, this is where they were always karmically destined to end, you get to keep, in the realm of your Hierophant, in the realm of your spiritual knowledge, those people are in your heart forever, right? These relationships shaped you and are the reason you get to go through these portals of self-initiation, right? Of self-fulfillment. It's the reason you get to stand independently. Like right now, like, I don't have any of the same relationships and connections that I used to have for majority of my life anymore, right? But all of those friends and family and community members that I was learning from when I was just learning about myself through life, they are absolutely embedded into Tethered Studios. They are absolutely embedded into my ability to channel right now, because if it wasn't for getting to sense and take in all of those people and diverse experiences and diverse ways of being and diverse life purposes, if it wasn't from getting to study at the feet of those people, just like the Taurus moon that I am, right? I wouldn't be able to have this well of information to pull from to be able to sequence these messages together and channel what the divine is coming through with. And so I think that's exactly what Taurus is learning under this moon. Is it's like such a beautiful self-acceptance. Like nobody can tell you that you can't go for this, because only you know the map of your life. And like I said, if you know your life is going to take you away to be in a sacred work, why not live a little? You know what I mean, Taurus? Like, why not get to know some people? Why not get to see people just experience things that are really different? Because I think you knew what your purpose was. I think Taurus is probably the most cut and dry, right? It's like, it is what it is with the Taurus. When you meet them, you know what it's going to be. But I think you took advantage of some opportunities to like get a lot more in your arsenal, because I think it will help you. I think you have a sacred craft that requires a lot of information, a lot of diverse senses and feelings and things that you need to do. And I think that in your eyes, when you look at these relationships that you might have to walk away from, these connections, these partnerships, these ways of building, these lifestyles that you were living previously, I don't think you'll have one single regret. And I think it's mostly because you didn't want to always feel like you had to fear like relating to people, you know what I mean? You didn't always want to feel like you had to be fearful that, you know, there wasn't a place for Taurus to genuinely connect. And I genuinely believe that going into this exhibition and showing exactly your sacred work, you need to know there are fucking 8 billion people on this planet. There's a lot of people where Taurus is. And I'm excited for this new era for you guys because, you know, it may be done as the chapter of learning through all this diversity, but I think you're really about to see, like, now that you've learned all of that information from differences, what can we learn from things that are actually very similar to you, that are actually really like you, you know? So I'm so excited for you, Taurus, because I just feel like this moon is helping you realize, like, not a single experience was wasted. And in fact, that's the whole reason you went for some of these things that, again, were meant to maybe last a season. You know what I mean? But there definitely was a reason embedded in there. So congratulations to you, Taurus, on this beautiful graduation and on this fucking, all of that is like, all of that past experience is literally wind in your sails as you go forward and do your Taurus thing. So happy full moon in Aries. This is such a beautiful reading. I'm so grateful for it. I love being a Taurus moon, so I really resonate with this collective. But have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time.